When I was growing up, I was deprived of the entertainment that most kids my age had. While everyone had their Nintendo 3DSs, I had a Leapfrog. And while everyone was watching Adventure Time, I was watching Wildcrats. Kind of a banger show though, not gonna lie. But every once in a while in elementary school, our class would be taken to the magical world of the library. I still remember the teeny little chairs that kids would fight over, and the old librarian who for some reason still used a typewriter. But in this euphoric place, I could find graphic novels that were actually considered popular at the time with my peers. The books that I exclusively grew up with were Bone, Zeta the Space Girl, and Amulet. Oh, Amulet. This series changed my entire outlook on entertainment and media as a whole. This book was pure gold to me as a kid, and recently I dug up some of those old books and decided to reread them after like a decade. And I gotta say, these are supposed to be kids' books? They're kind of dark for an elementary schooler to be reading. We got straight up death, we got slavery, we got vor. Yeah, you heard me right. Anyways, strap in and grab a snack as I go through this ancient tale that will remind you all of better days. Or, not, if you didn't grow up with it like I did. I don't even know if this book was as prevalent as I remember. But that doesn't matter. I'm the guy with the YouTube channel. Now listen! We start off with our main character's family driving down a street on the edge of a mountain. This is Emily, or M for short. She's the main character. And this is her mother, Karen, and her dad, David. She has a younger brother named Navin, but he's not with them at the moment. As they're driving down the street, someone passes them with their high beams on, causing David to swerve around the corner and almost hit someone. He quickly turns to avoid them and drives the car off the road. The car flips over and is miraculously stopped from falling off a cliff by an old dead tree. Emily and her mom manage to crawl out from the wreck, but David's legs are stuck under the driver's seat, and he can't get out. The tree holding the car is slowly breaking under the pressure, and the car starts sliding further over the edge. Emily frantically tries to stop the car from tipping as her mom grabs hold of David's hand, but it's no use. Karen's grip loosens, and the car flies off the edge of the cliff, with David still inside, leaving Emily and Karen there in the snow alone. Yeah, the dad freaking dies in the first 10 pages of the book. I was flabbergasted as a kid, realizing that this story wasn't afraid to kill people off. My little baby brain hadn't even fully grasped the concept of death yet. And this book is supposed to be targeted towards 8 to 12-year-olds. Who freaking greenlit that? Anyways, we cut to 2 years later. The family has fallen on hard times since David's passing, and they've had no choice but to move to an old family house that their great-grandpa Silius used to own. Is that how you say it? Oh, nope, it's Silas. Thank God for Google Translate. The house is a straight-up mansion, but super dirty from being abandoned for so many years. So they all attack the house with cleaning equipment. While they're cleaning, Emily finds an old creepy library with a giant portrait of her great-grandfather. While she's snooping around, a mysterious floating goo creature watches her from afar and then disappears. Emily calls her mom and Navin up to check out what she found. While they're exploring the old library, Emily's mom explains that Silas was an eccentric toy maker, though his creations looked more like machines. When Emily asks what happened to Silas, her mom responds by saying he went missing. No one knows where he went. He just disappeared one day without a trace. Karen leaves the kids to do more cleaning, and Emily finds a handprint on a table. She places her hand on it, and it flips to reveal an amulet necklace.
Yo, it's the amulet from the hit series Amulet?
Without a second thought, Emily puts on the necklace and goes back to cleaning. Navin thinks it's majorly sus and runs out of the room, scared, as he feels he's being watched. Oh, and look, there's a creepy shadow figure in the background watching him. Great! Later that night, the family sets up candles and sleeping bags since there's no furniture or electricity in the house. They start talking about why they moved here in the first place, which brings back the fact that the dad died at the beginning. Emily still hasn't really gotten over his death since, you know, she kind of saw him die, and that would totally mess up the psyche of a young kid. They all hug and snuggle up in their sleeping bags and turn the lights out for the night. In the middle of the night, the amulet around Emily's neck starts to glow and float. It speaks to her, telling her she's in danger. Just then, they all hear a thud coming from the basement, waking everyone up. Karen tells them to stay put as she goes to investigate. When she enters the basement, she finds the weird ooey gooey creature from earlier. She screams and tells it to back away, but something behind her gets closer. A freaky tentacle monster. Emily and Navin hear her scream and rush down to see what happened. They find her flashlight and hear a nearby door shut. They open it and continue down a strange stone staircase that looks like it doesn't belong in a mansion. They find a staircase with a breeze coming from it and start to run down. But as they run, the brick walls behind them begin to converge and close in. They run faster to avoid being crushed, As they reach a clearing, the doorway they came through disappears into the brick wall. Yeah, it seems they're outside now, and standing in front of them is the weird, roly-poly tentacle monster that ate their mom. Yup, this is the vor part I was talking about. Turns out she's still alive inside the monster's stomach. The monster grabs both of them and ends up swallowing Naven. Emily tries to help and somehow shoots a bolt of pink electricity from the amulet, which scares the monster and makes it run off. She chases after it as Naven tries to push himself out through a breathing hole in the monster's body. Emily manages to pull him out and they run off. The monster looks for them, but gets distracted by a sound made by a shadow figure at the distance. The same shadowy figure from before. Out of nowhere, the amulet starts talking to Emily again and tells her that they need to make their way down a ravine and find a house where their great-grandfather lives. Yeah, apparently Silas is still alive and living in this weird world. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention, they totally just got isekai back there. And if you don't believe me, look up the definition of isekai. Isekai is a Japanese term that translates to different world, other world, or another world. Isekai stories are about characters who are transported to a new world and must survive there. So for those haters saying that this isn't an isekai, take that! Yeah, I just wanted to say the word isekai because it gets more views. Isekai, 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 isekai! Anyway, they make their way to a cliff while being chased by the monster, and use some tall mushrooms as sails to float down. A weird bird starts chomping on Naven's mushroom, but the amulet teaches Emily how to shoot magic like she did before, and she kills the bird before it kills Naven. They finally land and follow the path that the amulet instructed them to take. Along the way, they find some worm grub things, and Naven feeds it some plants, but Emily rushes them along. Then something happens that gave little baby Merrick straight up nightmares for weeks. Yeah, they were being followed, but at least they made it to the house the amulet was talking about. They get ready to swim to it, when a mysterious cloaked figure in a rowboat starts approaching. They hide as the man docks and loads some kind of sci-fi gun. The man spots them, and they start to run away, only to be stopped by the same creepy stalker guy from before. And it looks like he's got some kind of amulet too. He's about to do something when the cloaked man shoots him with the sci-fi gun. It stuns him, but he's not dead. The cloaked man tells Emily and Naven to follow him quickly before the other guy gets back up. They get in the rowboat and shoot out of there before the other guy can get to them. The mysterious man tells them that the other guy is after Emily's amulet. He reveals that he is Silas's assistant, and that the amulet was a gift to Emily from Silas. They enter the house, and the tall man turns out to be a small bunny robot in a robotic suit. He introduces himself as Miskit. He then takes them upstairs to meet their great-grandfather. On the way, they encounter other robots like Cogsley and Mori, all of whom are creations of Silas. When they finally see Silas, he is in a bed, hooked up to an IV, and dying. Before he passes, he explains what's going on. He tells them that they are now in an alternate version of Earth called Aladia, and the amulet has the power to make Emily the most powerful being in this world. She says she's not interested in power, she just wants to get her mom and go home. But Silas reveals that the stone has the ability to turn back time and restore things to the way they once were.
There must have been a time in your life when you were happier. It's hard for me to believe you were always such a serious and determined young lady. You can have what you're truly looking for.
After this, he makes her choose whether to accept the inheritance he has given her, or leave it. Then he dies, which is a pretty intense scene to witness as a 10-year-old. Then everything in the house goes dark when he passes, including the robots. Now's the time that she has to decide. Em? I'm right here. What's going on? I don't know.
It's time to choose. Take Silas's place as the keeper of the stone, and you awaken a family that can help you recover your own. Just take the amulet into your hands and accept its power.
Wait. I don't trust it.
Without power, you cannot attain what you desire.
Don't do it.
Without the stone, everything around you will turn to dust. Embrace the power and use it to save your family.
Naven, we need their help. There must be another way. We can do this on our own.
He's right. There are other ways, but none so certain. And how can you afford to rely on faith when time is running out? You know what you must do.
No! She accepts the role of Stonekeeper, and everyone is brought back to life. They immediately start searching for Emily's mom, and head to a large control room with a holographic computer. The computer shows the location of the monster that swallowed her mom. The only problem is that the only way to reach the monster is through a tunnel full of tentacle creatures embedded in the walls. They'll have to fly a small plane through the tunnel without getting hit by the tentacles. Once they're through, the plan is to hit the monster that swallowed Emily's mom with a tranquilizer, so they can retrieve her from its stomach. Although the plane hasn't flown in years, but Cogsley assures them he can fix it up enough to fly. Emily and Naven board the plane with Misket, who grabs the big sci-fi gun from earlier, ensuring they have a weapon to fend off the tentacles. They take off and head towards the tunnel. As they enter, the tentacles start waking up and emerging from the walls. Naven takes the controls, while Misket shoots at the tentacles if they get too close, but he ends up getting grabbed by one. Emily uses the amulet to save him, preventing him from becoming the first victim of a tentacle hentai. What the? Why did I write that? Naven steps on the gas, and they all just barely avoid being crushed. They quickly spot the monster with Emily's mom inside, and Misket fires the tranquilizer. But something goes wrong. Instead of knocking the monster out, it keeps running. It turns out Misket grabbed the wrong box and shot it up with vitamins. Oops. Despite this, they move forward with the plan, shooting a harpoon tied to the plane at the monster. When that fails, Emily leaps off the plane, landing on a nearby creature, and tries to pull her mom out through the strange air hole in its back. Meanwhile, the other monsters start grabbing hold of the plane, and Emily's mom begs her to go back and save Naven. Emily quickly turns around, goes sicko mode, and blasts all the monsters' legs off, using a surge of power from the amulet. The plane is now free of the tentacle creatures, but they're headed straight for some trees. Naven tries to pull up, but it's too late. They end up crashing anyways. Misket gets knocked out, and without hesitation, Emily jumps out of the plane and starts running towards the monster. It starts raining as she makes her way to the creature holding her mother. She reaches a clearing where the monster is. On the other side stands the evil-looking guy from earlier. Using his amulet, he rips open the creature and pulls out Emily's mom. He traps Emily's mom, but instead of harming her, he drops her and grabs Emily instead, with his blue magic emanating from his amulet. Emily says if he wants her amulet, he can take it, but it turns out he doesn't just want the amulet, he wants her. Then we get some lore dropped. This is actually Prince Trellis of the Elves. He wants Emily to join him and help him defeat and kill his father, the Elf King.
If we join forces, we can free this land from his iron grip, and you will finish what your grandfather started. Just leave us alone. I'll make the decision a little easier for you. Say hello to Cybran. Just relax. Once he's inside your brain, you won't have to think anymore. No more worries. No more fears. Fear? No more fear. Just focus. Destroy him, Emily. Make him pay. No! Stop! Destroy him before it's too late. Wait! You're making a mistake! He took your mother from you. Make him pay. No. You're making a mistake, young master. Run away. And don't ever come near me or my family again. Understood? Yes, yes! Trellis runs off, and Naven and Misket show up just in time to help Emily pick up her mom. They head back to the house, where they put her in a bed and check her vitals. She's okay, but she's been poisoned by the creature, and won't wake up until they find an antidote. Emily blames herself and the amulet, trying to tear it off, but she can't. It turns out this amulet is more of a curse than a gift. They decide that they need to go to the closest town to get Emily's mom to a doctor, but the nearest town is 300 miles away and may take weeks to reach. Just then, Cogsley comes in and reminds them they still have one more vehicle left. They get ushered upstairs, where they buckle into seats that line the room. Turns out this house is also a giant Gundam robot, and it gets up from where it's been sitting for years and starts walking towards the city. That's the end of the first book, but we start off strong in the second. We see Trellis being escorted to his father, the Elf King. It turns out Trellis was sent on a mission to get Emily to join the Elf Kingdom instead of actually kill his father. But since he failed, the Elf King has assigned Lugger to finish the job with Trellis. Lugger is a high-ranking general in the Elf army, with lots of experience. He also has an amulet as well. Clearly the Elf King doesn't trust Trellis, and Trellis doesn't want to be chaperoned by Lugger, but he has no choice in the matter.
Meanwhile, at the house mecha, Cogsley is teaching Naven how to drive, while the rest of the robot family cooks pancakes. Theodore, the vacuum robot, brings some breakfast to Emily, who is with her mom. Mori tells Emily that her mom's condition is getting worse. They've tried all kinds of medication to help her, but none seem to work. Mori leaves them alone together as Emily's amulet starts to speak to her again, warning her that the elves are now after her, since she didn't accept Trellis's request. She will have to prepare for battle. Just then, they arrive at the city and park the house at a nearby dock. Lugger and Trellis are already at the city, watching them as they park. Emily, Naven, Miskit, Mori, and Bottle, who is carrying their mom, make their way through the city. Miskit tells Emily and Naven not to be alarmed by the citizens of the city. You see, they're all animal people. Apparently, the city of Canalis has a curse that transforms everyone who lives there into furries. Pretty weird, I know. There's literally no reason for it. I guess the author just really wanted to draw furries for some reason. While they make their way through the city, an elf spots them and is given the order to take them down. But a fox guy who is eavesdropping steps in and stops him. Oh my god! Is that a One Piece reference? That's totally Luffy's straw hat. You cannot tell me otherwise. It's a one-to-one depiction. One Piece! The fox man knocks out the elf and places the hat on his head to make him look like he's asleep. Meanwhile, as the Robo family walks through the city, Emily spots a line of people and asks Miskit what they're all standing around for. Apparently, they're all in line for a soup kitchen, but Miskit doesn't remember there being so many hungry people the last time he was here. The fox guy shows up and explains to Emily that they are all farmers, and that the elves took their farmland, leaving them with almost nothing. Are you a farmer too?
No, I'm a bounty hunter.
Emily, stay away from him. We don't meddle with his kind.
Well, that's too bad, because I think you could use my help right about now.
And what makes you think that?
You're being hunted by the elves. I offer my services as a bodyguard.
Look, pal, we're not looking to hire anybody, especially someone we don't know.
Just then, they get distracted by a baby crying, and they all look over at the noise. An elf soldier is causing trouble, yelling at a child to shut up. Look, I don't like it when babies or kids cry in public either. But dang, dude, don't kill it, I say as I call it an it. The fox intervenes and tells the elf to leave them alone, but he immediately gets pounded by the elf. At least he got the elf off the mother and baby's back. Emily suggests that maybe they should hire him, but Miskit isn't impressed. Plus, what would they pay him with? So they continue to the hospital. When they get to the hospital, the doctor examines Emily's mom and says that there's no cure for the poison that she was infected with. The only thing that can save her is a special fruit from a gadoba tree. Emily asks where they can find the fruit, and Dr. Weston says that the remaining trees reside at the top of Demon's Head Mountain. Many elves and adventurers have journeyed to the top to obtain the fruit, but none have ever come back. Emily plans to make the trip in order to save her mom. The fox guy shows up and asks to accompany her. Apparently, he used to know Silas and wants to help her. He reveals that his name is Leon Redbeard. Leon? Like from the hit game Resident Evil? Honestly, this guy is like Leon, but if he were a fox. Just then, Cogsley calls Mori and tells them that the elves are breaking into the house at the dock. Cogsley turns off all the power in the house, including all the robots inside, so the elves don't get any information out of them. Leon tells the doctor they need to get everyone down to the underground exit. Wait, why are we taking the patients with us?
Because the elves are already here.
Prepare the cannon!
What about the patients? They have no part in this.
Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good.
Everyone rushes down to the underground exit, which has a metro in it that will send everyone to safety, except for Leon and Emily, who need to make their way to the top of Demon's Head Mountain to get the fruit. Naven struggles to stay with them, but the train leaves, leaving Leon and Emily as the only ones left. And Miskit, he stayed behind. He says that he was built to protect and guide Emily, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So all three of them get out of there before the whole hospital crumbles down on them. They make their way through the sewers and out into an alleyway. They jump onto the rooftops, and Emily uses the amulet to carry herself and Miskit across the buildings. Some other elf soldiers spot them and attack. Leon does some sick sword stuff, and Emily blasts them with magic. And the rest of the elves run off scared, but the amulet's voice is getting stronger and causes Emily to faint for a moment. She wants to take it off, but Leon says, like it or not, a path has been chosen for her, now that she's a stonekeeper. She will learn to control the power eventually, but until then, it's going to be a struggle. Man, I just realized this totally sounds like if Star Wars and Lord of the Rings had a baby. You know, in a weird kid book way. we cut to where the rest of the gang ended up, after they got separated in the hospital. This big blue guy named Balin introduces Naven to the Resistance. Man, it's sounding more and more like Star Wars already. They are a group of warriors from around the world, brought together to fight the elves. Then Balan brings Naven to Father Adler, who is an old friend of Silas's. Father Adler is an ancient tree, the same tree that grows the special fruit that can heal their mom. But this specific tree is dying and can't grow anything. Although he's old, he has the power of foresight, so he has predicted that Emily is the one to save Eladia from the elves, and Naven is to be the leader of the resistance. He also says that if Emily goes to Demon's Head Mount, she will surely die. Naven doesn't like this, so he quickly rushes to get out so he can save her. The resistance says they can help him, so they sneak back into the mecha house and turn on all the robots. They kick out the elves who took it over and make their way to save Emily. Back to Emily, Leon is trying to teach her how to use her powers to protect and grab things, since the entrance of Demon's Head Mountain is blocked with a bunch of TNT. She doesn't get it at first, but once Leon tells her that everything has a life force, it makes it easier for her to protect and lift objects. Leon also teaches her to imbue her magic into a staff so it's easier to control. So she lifts the TNT out of the entrance with ease, but as she does, the amulet speaks to her, saying that she doesn't need anyone else to do this mission. She can do it on her own, but she refuses, saying that her friends are what motivate her and make her strive to be better. So they make their way up the mountain and find a place to stop for the night. This is when Leon reveals what the Elf King really is. First, before the Elf King, there used to be a small group of young stonekeepers who all lost control of their powers, and their amulets took over their minds and bodies. They transformed into massive titans and wreaked havoc, but an older group of stonekeepers, including Silas, defeated them, except for one. He was a young elf boy, the Elf King. Leon's dad was in charge of watching over his prison cell, but he escaped and killed him. Now Leon fights to defeat the Elf King to honor his father. Elsewhere, Lugger and Trellis are following the path to the mountain in order to find Emily. But as they walk through the mist, Lugger decides that Trellis is no longer needed and would only get in the way of this mission. So he beats him up and leaves him. Back to Emily, they have finally found the special magic trees. The trees tell her that she needs to pick the right fruit. Otherwise, she will die like all the others before her. So basically, it's ripping off Indiana Jones. Nice. She uses the amulet to find the correct fruit, and now they're ready to head back to heal her mom. When they leave, Lugger arrives at the forest and burns down all the trees. He finds Emily and sends his evil demon dog after her. She defeats it, but then her amulet starts fighting for control of her mind. Leon and Misket try to protect her as she's having a battle in her own head, but Lugger defeats them quickly. When all hope is lost, Trellis shows up and backstabs Lugger. But Lugger uses his amulet to transform into a giant titan monster. He swats Trellis aside and pushes Leon and Emily off a cliff. But before they can hit the ground, Naven shows up in the house mecha, grabs them, and quickly brings them inside. Naven starts to fight Lugger with the house, but Lugger is too strong, ends up ripping off the arms of the house. Just then, Emily regains control of her amulet and uses its power to reinforce the house and repair it. Naven starts absolutely pummeling Lugger and finishes him off with a Guvia Go-Go Gadget rocket arm trick and blasts him into the abyss. Then Emily faints. She wakes up and finds her mom cooking in the kitchen. The magic fruit worked, and she has been healed. But now what? Emily has saved her mom, and that was the whole reason she went through this whole mess. What will she do now? Well, she decides that she will have to stick with this Robo family and Leon so she can fulfill her destiny to save all of Eladia. Finally, the book ends with Trellis lurking in the mountaintops near the house. The end! I don't know about you, but I think that for a kid's book, this story is a banger. And the art is also actually good for once. There's real shading and good coloring, unlike other flat, lame kids comic books I've read. Anyway, if you remember this book from when you were a kid, leave a comment so I know that I'm not crazy. I swear it was popular, guys. I swear it was popular, guys. When I was 10, this was popular, guys. I swear, guys. If you want me to read more of this story, tell me, and I'll get right to cooking up some more videos. Anyhow, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!